Good evening. Welcome back to another edition of Beyond the Backstage Pass. I am your host, Vince Edwards. You may know me from Sound Image Productions. I've also got a couple closed roadie groups on Facebook, one called Death by Loadout, another one called The Backstage Pass. Come check it out. It's kind of fun. Tonight with me, the one and only dear, good friend and co-host, Kyle Thomas. How are you, sir?
Fucking great. COVID-free, baby.
You look all bright-eyed and bushy-tailed and all. Look at that. What happened to... Now, we were talking at lunch and I was like, what the fuck happened to you?
You don't like my naked beard?
I didn't know. I was like, dude, something's wrong with your face. And you're like, no, dude, I shaved. And like, oh, yeah, no wonder. I was thinking, well, I think I told you, you look 14.
Yeah, I'm 31. I'm trying to look a little bit like I'm 16. So,
it's a thing. It's weird. If I shave, which I will not do, if I shave my shit off, I swear I'd lose 15 years that quick.
Oh, I can't even imagine.
And plus, you'd also figure out that I have no chin. So there's, so it's not happening.
I'm kind of on the same page, man.
It's my little disguise, you know. So I'm back here. It's rock and roll, man. I ain't fucking getting rid of it.
Even Susie, she's like, dude, your face seems like way longer when you got a beard. And I'm like, yeah, well, this is my naked chin. When's the last time you seen that?
Yeah. It's amazing that the use it puts on you, you know. Not that you ever looked really old, but God, it really took you down a decade. You're a handsome bastard, though, and I'm sure your chick's digging it. What's up with you this week, man?
Man, I would just like to thank last week's guest, the amazing John Lozier, for being out here. I'm really pissed nice. I missed it, but I got to sit and watch it out of my sick time, so it's great to have him on. It
was weird because, you know, of course, we wanted to talk about your experiences with John and then have him, you know, pick on you a little bit.
Yeah, of course.
You know, and you weren't here, so Bernie stepped in, Bernie Broderick, and that was a great treat for us. You know, he's a dear friend and an incredibly accomplished guy, so it was very nice of him to fill in for you, but I'm glad you're doing better. And of course, I want to thank John as well. It was a treat having him on. He's extremely accomplished. He's just a good person, and it was fun.
Yeah, and you got to see Bernie's new caterpillar color, man. It's a bumblebee, but really we're gonna.
Don't get me started, bro. Bernie is a very creative type, and it's something that I'm not. You know, I don't have that type. That's not who I am. I'm a music guy, and so when people like that, the creative types, my chick's like this. She makes all of her own clothes and all this, and you know, and to me, I'm just like, cool. You know, I don't know what the fuck to think. But when he whipped out that yellow speaker, and then he started giving me, you know, it's got the diamond plate and all the things. And when it's called, what do you call it? Diesel, I think? It was diesel.
Something like that.
Yeah, and it's just, I'm watching the little gears working in his brain, you know. If you know him like I know him, it's like, it's fun. It's cute, and, you know, it makes him happy. And it's a creative type of person, you know. They just have this thing. They're just constantly on the make, just constantly trying to think of the next thing. So
it's
to
inspiring.
His credit, he does that. And you know, he's got the talent and the skill to back it up with output and with gear, things that he produces. So we're very lucky to have him. One quick little note. This show will air, hi guys, will air in 2 weeks, I believe the 17th. So actually when this show airs, last week's guest will have been Paul David Hager from everything, from What Isn't He From, and you know, mix engineer, mastering fucking god, and his brother Josh Hager from Devo which is we're going to tape after this show. This is one going in the can. So just so the audience knows, they're going to be telling them about a show they've already watched, and they're like, wait, no, Paul David Hager was there. so we just straightened that.
We haven't done some pre-recordings in a while.
Yeah. You forgot how it works, but you're doing fine, buddy. You're doing fine. What else you got?
So we're still cruising along on this S6L training. We still got Scoville involved with a little side project for the woman's audio mission portion of it. Just been trucking away. I think this is day 3 now of their training once a week. It's been going really well.
I loved walking in there. We walked in with our guest a minute ago, and I like just doing that to drag them in and like show them, well, see, you guys are right here at the foundational place. You know, you're building up. But if you work real hard, you get to become like a, you know, like an Ostrin badass, you know, work for Toto and some of these extraordinary bands, Van Halen and on and on and on. And I don't think when you're at this position, you don't see the line to get to that position. And so I think it's important to bring Greg around and Brad and them to kind of let the kids see, yeah, this is what it looks like. This is the guys at the top of the game. And it's so interesting to watch you in there teaching with these kids and their little minds. You just see the gears turning and the steam coming out, and you know, trying to get it down. And it's a great service. I appreciate you taking this on for our company, and of course Robert Scoville's attention and you know, teaching time is priceless. I mean, you really can't do just too perfect, particularly for the Avid product, because it's such a dense bit of information. The things that board can do is not something you get overnight. And so just a really great setup. And you had a couple of I love that we're doing this for the Women's Sound Mission? What is
Women's Audio Mission.
Women's Audio. I love that. I love that we're in some way helping that. I'd love to see more females in our industry. We've got some incredibly talented, Samantha Porter, all these people that are really talented folks. But it's still uneven as it relates to the boy-girl kind of math. And I'd probably somewhere like 80-20, and I'd love to see that get closer to 50-50. That would be kind of nice, In my experience, chicks have a better ear. They're certainly easier to supervise and manage. They tend to be more responsible and timely. Some of the qualities that are inherent in females, I'd really love to train into you guys. And so I love it. I can't wait to get these people trained up and we can push them out into some work and go forward. Super cool.
Yeah, I just look at it as like note taking is so critical.
The one gal?
I'm a person that's glued to my notebook, and when I see somebody else with that kind of work ethic, I enjoy teaching somebody that's like that, because it's
so
like,
you're probably enjoying Sylvana, I would imagine.
Yeah, I mean, the whole
you
group.
Say anything that she doesn't take down.
You say our guy Cody and Zach, they're the same way. There's a couple of sound image guys are just super on top of what we give them to stay relevant and keep up to date with the next training, and I think that's really impressive.
Cool. Well, I think this generation of young people is very different than the generation that me and our guest today came up in. It was a different way of learning. It was a very hands-on. There wasn't a lot of note-taking. There wasn't time for that shit. There were, matter of fact, no pens or notepads anywhere. You were doing shit, and when you were getting it wrong, that's Bernie Broderick. Hey, baby.
Hey.
When you're getting it wrong, you could expect a wedge to come across the room, and you had to dodge that. Oh shit, a gerbil!
Yeah,
a 58 coming at you at high speed. Like, get it right, or you're gonna get a fucking concussion. That was
Well, and I think that's what I think is fun on my part of learning is helping. Somebody else's education standing is helping me learn certain things as well. Because like you said, there's a million ways to skin a cat.
Really is.
Especially
it really,
on
really
that
is.
board.
Yeah, it really is. And sometimes we're too close. We've fixed into our ways, and you get a couple different humans there that aren't stuck into the tradition of how you do a thing. So their curiosity is like, what if we did this? What if we did that? And sometimes a little light goes on. And you're like, oh, I hadn't thought about that approach. I hadn't thought about that workflow.
Totally.
And it's priceless, I know this is always me and my chick have this oftentimes. I'll go in and tell her about how awful you guys have been throughout the day. And, I just barely survived it, honey. They were all climbing all over me. It was a bunch of savages. And she's all, what have you? And she's always got this whole other take on it.
That must have been the day I threw some soup cans at you.
Yeah, that wasn't very nice. I don't even know. You aimed directly at my head, too, which is a little fucked up. I caught him with my mouth, and ate that soup. But that's just
Strong
me.
dude.
It's what I do. So I get it. I'm glad you're doing that with the kids.
Yeah. So speaking of Scoville, we have a couple of his cables in the shop. We've been getting some rewirings done on some of his CPC connections. I don't know where they're going back into, but you're going to have some nice cables when we're done, Bob.
Well, what did you just call him?
Rob.
Oh, okay. I thought you called Bob Scoville, which I can call him Bob Scoville. Right. I thought you just called him Robert Scoville, Bob. Which I would love that for you.
If you didn't write it on my piece of paper, I probably wouldn't have said it.
Yeah, you guys walk softly, man. He carries a big stick. Bob is a sweetheart of a man. As you know, he's extraordinarily busy right now, so he shopped out some of this work to us. It was 6 CPCs. They had changed over from the old CBC style to the rack mount CPC style. And then they're like, 12 pair fan outs, the XLR. And they came in with a batch of them. 4 of them were female XLR, and he wanted us to change this over to male. And then 2 of them needed a little more involved work. They were female CPCs that he needed to change over to male CPCs. And then the male XLR that were Neutrik on it, he wanted to go to this other brand. So there was technically nothing wrong with those XLR, but for him he's kind of particular this way. He wanted them all 72 to be the same. So we took those off and put on these other ones. So
Makes sense.
it's, you know, he's busy. He's getting back into the mix of things and going out and do big shows. And so we can help him out to keep him on the road and doing what he does. It's our pleasure. Like you mentioned before, he's in here training some of our, you know, best and brightest, and he does that from the love. And so the least we can do is show him the love right back.
Fuck yeah. And
our
speaking
pleasure.
of training, we got AAW auto training tomorrow with Jonas. We got these lovely new stacks of autos in the building from AAW. We're looking forward to talking to Jonas and kind of getting the lowdown on what to do with these things.
Well, I'd like that very much too. And after the show, if you take a minute with our guest, he mentioned that he had saw that we had these in the shop and would like a little tour on them, and you can run them through what they do. Because I think we got off the subject somehow, and I didn't follow up on that. But if you would take a minute and run them through what the auto is and how it works, that would be cool.
Absolutely, man.
Thank you, my brother.
So yeah, once again, I just want to thank Jonas for tomorrow's session, even though it hasn't happened. But we appreciate you taking the time and training us on this stuff.
All right.
We also like to thank Muka. We just were talking to him recently and wanted to congratulate him on his new desk purchase. He purchased an API and ditched out his SSL. He also bought $60,000 worth of barefoot speakers for his mastering setup.
Oh shit.
So check him out, Prairie Sun, based up in Katati. Very solid studio.
Yeah.
I
Did a
just
couple
wanted to
albums
shed
there.
some light on a cool old place that's done some cool records, that's kind of got a new retrofitting for some newer material.
I haven't been there for a decade or more, or probably more. No, definitely more. The first time we went there, George and I went in there to record Eddie and the Tide album in like 85 or 6, something like that. And we stayed up there for 8 days. And it was a very different place, I imagine. And then we did another tune-up thing there, I think, with Huey or Journey. I don't remember. It was just a long fucking time ago. But it was a quaint little cool spot, and we had a lot of fun with it. And then I found out that they went on to do some live production shit, out in the world. That was news to me. I didn't know that. Would love to have Muka in here and pick his brain. The guy's seen and done.
Well, that's one of those guys. He loved Ryan McCauley's subs. One of the only RMS places in our area that houses those subs. Another good key point of Muka and his business is that guy has produced really good quality low-end components and boxes, and that's one of the houses in this area you can go and experience that stuff. So
cool. Yeah, we're kind of embarrassment of riches around here. We got some amazing spots in Hyde Street and all these other places that are pretty happening, somewhat legendary. And so yeah, we're well represented in our little region.
Definitely, I'm glad things are sticking around. A couple of years ago, we talked about Trilogy was really the last place that we had in our area for that $1,200 day rate.
Yeah.
Now it's down to like $650. I don't even understand how studio owners do it.
Well, and record plant's coming back online up in Sausalito, and that's a famous place. Journey cut their teeth there back in the day. It's right on the water. It's a special place, and so some of the brick and mortars did not do well during this. It was obviously a lot of overhead in the brick and mortar itself, and so they weren't destined to survive the nature of what COVID brought to the table. Basically wiped the slate for all of us for a minute, and so a couple went away. But it kind of, I think it focuses on the ones that are left. They've tried to reinvent themselves a little bit, up their game somewhat, similar to what you just mentioned with Muka's purchases, and hopefully it will come out in the mix because so many people. It's one of the things I think I'll talk to Paul tonight about is, what's up with the DIY approach, everybody with their Pro Tools and they're all, doing shit out of their basement, and what it's doing to, actual studio time and studio engineers, studio technicians, so on and so forth, actual real producers, the Max Martin type motherfuckers, opposed to my name's Fred and I know how to play an oboe. It's like... It's a very different thing, but it is the way of the beast. And as technology comes in, a lot more people try to take it on themselves. But there is just something that does not replace a person like a Paul David Hager or Jim Akbowski. Motherfuckers that just.
It's the technology though. You got to think about what I look at it as at my age is that I don't need a $1 million console to get a similar product now. Right, with technology, how it is, you can do virtually a lot of things in the small format setup and still be just as deadly. So
Or at
the
least
canyon,
at a pretty high quality level.
I look at it as like a Grand Canyon before my time. I'm sure it was a lot harder to get to that end money pit, right? Because you have to have all that technology and infrastructure that costs that much money. Where now I could have maybe like $3,000 of a setup and probably be closer to that money.
Yeah, you're not wrong. You're absolutely not wrong. And there's a lot of folks. There's like the Chuck Berry model or the Jay Leno model. They came up, no managers, no fucking agents. They did it themselves. They didn't want to split their money up. They didn't want to trust people that when they had or their friends that they had other musicians had been taken and been fucked over by management, which is pretty common story, especially back in those days. But it's just in each his own path. But it's not surprising as the technology comes out, it gets more intuitive, that people are gonna, put it to work to different levels of success and failure. And I've seen some pretty amazing self-published shit and some other stuff that, was like, wow, like not so good. So there's something to be said for, guys like John or Greg or whatever being involved in your shit, because they're bringing a whole nother thing to it that you can't replace with technology, 40 years of experience. You just can't. It's just not happening.
What was a guest a couple weeks ago? He said, like, the guys that are killing it right now coming out of COVID are a lot of the rock and roll DIY cats, that came from that punk rock era or whatever else. That's like, you got the skill set. Now that technology gap is gone.
Yeah.
Oh, you're lethal.
Yeah.
That's why we're all getting money.
Right on.
Anyway, that's
So
about
what you got,
it.
baby?
I'm done my list.
Listen, as you well know, I've got an amazing cat here tonight. I want to get into it with him. I didn't even write him an intro because I couldn't. It's too hard.
I know.
So I'm just going to work an intro right off here. Off his fact sheet, because how do you shove that all into 5 sentences? It's impossible. So thank you for being here. Thank you for all you do for the thing. Loving the new set. It's not that new, but we've jiggered up some stuff. The lighting's different. The chairs,
purple's color of royalty.
It's working, man. I think it's totally working, and the lighting guys stepped up, and so thank you, Alan. I appreciate you the most, Alan Pettibone, Primus and Incubus fame, just general all around badass LD. We've kind of lucky that we got this team. Thank you for being here. Thank you, Mikey. All right, let's do it. Tonight, guys, I got really lucky with a guy that I've been following for friggin' ever. Good friend of my brother's, he's just a legend in our business. He has done and seen. He has come up through some of the coolest ranks. And '86, he started out with Dirk Schubert over there at Schubert Systems Group. He really couldn't land in a better spot. He came up the honest way, starting out in the shop, learning his chops. I think he had a little bit of pre-production like classes and things. But to come up in a house where David Sanborn and Toto and Shaka Khan, like the artists you get to deal with, and to learn that in the real way, the way that I think I approve of the most, which is a hands-on approach, and to go forward into becoming front of house for Toto, or running along and working with Glenn Frey and Don Henley. I mean, just legends in this game, making it up to Van Halen. And again, to mix Toto, this is a band that many of us use, like Steely Dan, to bring out our systems. These are seminal bands in our industry that just can't, there's no way to be better than that, to be at a top, higher part of your game. Most recently with Alanis Morissette, and currently, and if I get this right, until the day I die, I'm going to be front of house for John Legend. It's the one and only Jon Ostrin. How are you doing, my brother?
I'm doing great, man.
It is
good to see you guys.
It is really such a treat to have you. I can't tell you. I know we were going to first do this on Zoom, right? And then we figured out that you were going to be in town doing some stuff for a friend at one of our spots up in town. Yeah. And when I realized, oh, dude, we're going to get to do this together, I knew it was going to be so much better. So much better. The Zoom interviews are cool, and they do what they do. But this is way more enjoyable for me. So I am so pleased to have you in the house.
When I saw the set, that was the end of it. It was worth the flight out. There's just no doubt.
You've seen on these other shows, and I'm a fan of most of these other shows. Some of them are really great. But what you usually see is a microphone and a guy in his bedroom. And there's like 4 guys and microphones in there. It is super unappealing to me. We need a little more. We throw a little more at it.
Jazz.
Yeah, a little more color, as it were. But I love what they do. The Wrong and the Snake and the Signal Noise and all those guys. But this is our approach to it. So My brother, I
I
got to
love
ask.
it. I think you guys got to take this on the road or get a residency in Vegas because we need this.
I was thinking I could see us like having a booth down in Nam, and as our brothers walk by, it's like, get in here, sit the fuck down. We're going to do 20 minutes.
That'd be cool,
That
man.
I could
That's a
see
good
doing
idea.
that.
And
I'm
there
not
we
sure
go.
where else this would translate to, but that would be, LDI or something like that. I could see that working pretty good. My brother, I've got to ask you, now I did mention him, and I try to be inclusive, but to talk about LA Guns, Bonnie Raitt, Bruce Hornsby, there's no way I can just get this all in here. Let me ask you, what led you to this industry? How did you get into this business?
I took the route of college dropout.
Sweet.
Did good in school.
Yeah.
Went up to UC Santa Barbara after about a year and a half.
Yeah.
That was about it for me. So I made a little pit stop through rehab, but on my way,
Sure.
I really stumbled into it. I went to a recording school in North Hollywood and followed a buddy of mine who was a guitar player I went to high school with. And at the end of that school, they had an elective course on live audio. And we all jumped in. And the teacher really took me aside at the end and he says, I think you got a knack for this. I was the one cat that, he's got the console set up and the band and everything's mic'd up and everybody gets a chance to mix. And all they do is push faders up and up and up. I was the one guy that brought things down. As I started reaching for some EQ, he's like, easy does it. And that was it. I mean, it was, I'm not a musician. I have no musical talent, but I'm a concert goer.
Yeah.
From the age of 10, that was my life, was going to concerts. So
you would say, because, the pretty common story is very common, really. Is, I would try to be a guitarist, and then I realized, I wasn't going to make it, and then I started falling in love with the gear, and before I know it, it's kind of like that. But it sounds like to me like you came a little bit more from the place of a fan, of somebody music appreciates, and that's a special place to come from because you kind of have a different approach to the philosophy of mixing, I would imagine.
Well, I went to shows, but I like to sit up front, so I wasn't really the cat that would sit in the back and want to, and listen.
Yeah.
I noodled around in my house and in my car and all that, but it was something about live concerts, something about the live concert environment.
It's kind of addictive.
That drew me in.
Yeah, no,
and there was no choice. It was audio. It wasn't backline tech. It wasn't lighting.
Yeah, you weren't feeling that. Yeah, the audio is what spoke to you.
Well, when you see all the cable lighting guys deal with, that's out. Forget it.
You're not wrong. Yeah, I've always thought that too.
Right.
Yeah,
right.
it just didn't speak to me. But I get it because my lighting friends they think, well, why the hell did you pick audio? That's not very hands-on. It's not very creative. Right. And it's like, well, from my point of view, it's extraordinarily creative. But it's I get where you're coming from. There's a little more of like you can see their outcomes where you got to feel ours. And it's kind of a different response. I mentioned that in the opening. That you've been with Legend, 2008, 2009, about 13?
2008, end of 2008. I took over mixing monitors early 2009.
Talk about a sweet spot in our industry to hang with a guy that talented, that is that consistent.
Yeah.
Just an extraordinary performer. And I noticed, again, like I read right off the thing here, you feel pretty solid in that thing. You're going to stay till the day you die? You got that kind of love for it?
Yeah.
That's sweet.
Well, I mean, it's always different. We're traveling the world. We've been to places I've never been to. We're doing
Did you say you just did that Capri thing on the island of Capri?
We were in Capri about 6 months ago, and we just got back from Vietnam.
Yeah.
About 3 weeks ago.
Pretty sweet, right?
Yeah, and it's always that with Jon.
Yeah.
And to work with an artist, he's the first guy I've ever worked for in my career who's younger than me, and so he was 29 when I started. So I've watched the success. I've watched the involvement.
Yeah, kind of.
And I'm actually happy for his success. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He
seems like a real genuine guy too.
He's salt of the earth, bro.
Salt of the earth.
Salt of the earth.
Yeah, that's nice. Yeah.
Can't say enough of that.
Let me ask you. So I know you. And I need you to be honest here.
All right.
None of this.
Okay.
Just because he's sitting right there, don't let him intimidate you. I got your back. Look at all this gear right here. Look at all this.
All right.
I got you. You're gonna be fine.
He's letting you fucking zing.
All right. So I hear you were out with John Legend. I know we had put this fucking guy out to, bring up the SC position, which I got some good feedback on. But I want to know straight from the horse. How did my boy do out there?
He did
How
good.
did Kyle Thomas do with you on John Legend for what was that, 3 month run? 3 month run?
It was about a 3 month run.
Yeah.
He did good.
Yeah.
It was a tough run for all of us.
Yeah.
Because none of us knew each other.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Personalities, getting to know each other.
Sure.
He started off on a bad foot because he referred to me as your generation.
Yeah, I heard about that.
Like day 2.
What the fuck?
Okay, strike one. But you know what? I mean,
Asshole.
Kyle's us 25, 30 years ago.
I know.
You know what I mean?
know
He's
exactly.
no-cal, audio grunt all the way.
Yeah.
And, you know, you crushed it. You crushed it. I missed the beard, though. You know, you do look a little young.
Too young now. Fuck.
I know you need to, like just between you and me, John. Like seriously, right? You need to bring that back.
Oh yeah. Oh,
yeah, you need to bring that back.
All
Too.
right.
At least
Let me
the goat.
see me, dude.
At least
Got
the goat.
a nice
Yeah.
thick one going for
Yeah.
you.
Well, I don't know. You rock a weird beard, you know. Like we all grow our hair differently, what God or nature does to us. And you got that weird thing that goes here, and you know, and it works for you,
Yeah, it
dude. It
does.
seriously does. Like so you might want to return that back
That
to
was
your
very
face.
kind to you. Thank you.
Yeah. I had the why audio question, but you just answered that very well because you feel it
Right.
and it's in your soul, and you don't have a choice not to do it. Almost 86 to 90, I believe you were in.
Okay.
You were, cutting your teeth at Schubert System Groups.
Yeah.
We talked about this at some length, and I don't know anybody that doesn't understand Dirk Schubert, a guy that I just adore him. His accomplishments in our industry, what he's brought to the table, to him and his relationship with Jim Gamble and what they were able to create together, just extraordinary. What was your history with Mr. Dirk Schubert and Schubert System Group?
Dirk. You know what? I have this life because of Dirk. Simple. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I went out. The first tour I did was with a friend of mine's uncle, who had brought a little rig out with Dirk from Schubert's, and so we did a 3-week run, and we went back to the shop, which was in Gardena at the time. We dumped the truck, and this guy hands me a W4 to fill out, and it's Dirk, and I'm like, okay, I guess I've got a job. Schubert knew. I mean, I knew nothing. I was young. I wasn't too educated in audio at all, and he gave me the world.
That's so cool.
You know, I'm going to teach you how to solder. I'm going to teach you how to, work your way through the console. We're going to learn everything basic in the shop, from cable management to speaker management, to how everything works. And then he would literally give you a console, some mics, some boxes, sent me out with Shaka and said, go.
Oh, shit.
Sink or swim. Just go for it.
Well,
He'd show you the ropes.
Yeah.
Do this. And over those 4 years, all right, now I'm going to show you this. I'm going to show you, wire a delay unit into the PCM60 and get the pre-delay. I mean, the little tricks of the trade kind of things, and the little, the nuggets and stuff. But it was, you're going to learn on your own in a lot of aspects.
Yeah.
But I'm here for you. I mean, he had my back. He still has my back.
Yeah. I mean, that's one thing I think he's well known for is that he will give you enough rope, but at the same time, he'll be your net too.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well,
And like you said, a guy, more tricks up a guy's sleeve, I don't know. He knows the ins and outs of his shit, and it just the way he approaches it, and it just, I don't know, I always just thought he was a fascinating guy, and I would kill to get him on the show. We talked about
right.
it.
Come on,
it's
Dirk.
a little hard to lasso him, but I think I got close.
We're petitioning hard. I mean, and I'll be honest, I didn't understand 90% of what he was telling me.
Yeah.
And I still don't. And he knows it.
Big brain on that
but
part.
that's all right.
Yeah. He's kind of a badass. I mean, let's be fair. That's actual real shit.
Yeah.
So then I know you went away for a minute and then came back in 94. So there was a little bit of a 4-year separation. You went out and did shit on the road, right? You cut your teeth out there.
Yeah.
Then you came back and you were there for 94 to 99. How did that change for you? Did you start rolling up into the systems? We're going out as his monitor guy for some of the shows we mentioned.
Yeah.
Is that kind of the progression of it?
Yeah, JD had joined up with Dirk.
Yeah.
And they kind of created a spot for shop manager. And there were a few of us in the shop all the time, and then it was doing the weekend gigs. And a lot of the mixing stuff, was kind of rotational. I did Boingo for a while after JD, and then when I couldn't do some, Raz was doing it, or I'd go out and do, it's a blur at the moment, but a number of stuff. From 94 to 90, about 98.
Yeah.
But I wasn't touring hard.
Yeah.
And I missed it.
Yeah.
A lot.
You want to get back into that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you mentioned Raz, as in Jeff Rasmussen.
Jeff Rasmussen.
Yeah, right. Well, tell us about your relationship. And then you, as you know, he's a dear friend of the show, dear friend of Sound Image. He does a lot of stuff with us. I adore Jeff.
Yeah.
The Raz is one of my favorite people. We've had him on a couple times. What was your experience with Jeffrey?
We did a few gigs together. We were shuffling gigs. But I was thinking about the other day, and he might remember this. We brought a monitor rig over to Sony to do Barbra Streisand rehearsals.
Tough artist to work with, yeah.
And I'm like shaking. My hands are sweating on the console. and we've got a pair of wedges in front of her and a pair in back. No, you don't talk to Miss Streisand. You talk to Bruce, her engineer, who talks to her. And, and she's getting in the groove, and Raz is like, give her a guitar in the rears, crank it up. I'm like, this is Streisand. And he's like reaching over and nudging it, you know what I mean? He's like, longer verb, like just loose, like unintimidated, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I'm watching her get into it. You know what I mean? And
he was right.
And it was one of those like life lessons of give the artist what you think they should to take them to another spot.
Yeah.
Raz was fearless. He's, you know, just that relaxed vibe.
Yeah.
Like don't trip.
He's kind of a one-of-a-kind guy, you know?
Oh, yeah.
The way he rolls. We had him in here for this big thing. I think it was Maroon 5, right? Wasn't he here for that?
Yep.
Yeah. And there was a bunch of knuckleheads in here working, very different approaches, you know? We got the whole place, the whole prep area just laid out, you know, fucking from one side of the building to there is a big-ass thing.
Right.
And got to be, and we're working with one of the more complicated rigs, frankly, that one right there.
Yeah.
And not everybody is checked out on it. And so we were kind of doing during the prep, we were doing a little bit of catch up on the ones and twos of it, to how to get it done. And we had a couple different kind of competing concepts of how you actually speak to this rig, how you drive it.
Right.
And I remember I rolled up on Raz as this is happening, and he had this look on his face. I said, Raz, what's going on? He's like, nope. I'm not saying nothing. Because if I do, I'm going to have to smack a couple of these kids around.
Right.
It's awesome.
Well, yeah, it's like Raz
he just knows how to keep it when he needs to keep it, and he knows how to bring it when he needs to bring it.
Yeah, we would go into Irvine Meadows, for example.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And the rig was 4 deep, 4 wide, 3 deep or something. And Raz would be like, let's go 2 wide, 6 deep. Or let's triple stack the subs. There's no book here. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Let's try something out of the box or what have you.
Yeah.
And
crack that envelope and see what we can do. Yeah.
I mean, it was a proprietary rig. It was the Stradians.
Yeah.
And then the double 18 subs. And the rigging was pretty stagnant. It was what it was.
Yeah.
So you had to get creative if you wanted to,
Well, with a
try
guy like
something
Raz is, like you mentioned, he's kind of fearless. And if you don't know that you ain't supposed to, or there's some perception that it goes this way and only this way.
Right.
He ain't gonna get stuck in that paradigm. He's gonna do it. He's gonna turn it around. He's gonna flip it up. He's gonna see how he can maybe make it perform in a different way.
Yeah.
And I've always enjoyed his adventurous nature and what he does.
Yeah.
But he's just also a treat of a human being. He's actually a joy to work with and to hang out with. And that shit, once everything's up and you're kicking it, and it's the sound check's done. It's about the doors. We're waiting on doors. He's one of those guys you want to get caught in the foxhole with.
Yeah.
Just fucking a sweetheart of a guy, and incredibly smart.
Yeah.
We got to talk Van Halen. I have a little history with Van Halen, but Van Halen, man. This is a band from 77 until Eddie's passing. These guys didn't really know a day of badassery. They came out hot. And when they came out, they brought it. All their incarnations had some form of success to them.
Who drops their first album? Opening track is Eruption. I mean, if you're gonna make a statement right out of the gate.
Actually, I think the opening track was Jamie's Crying.
No, Jamie's Crying was on the second or.
No, because Eruption is like the second song, and then it plays Really Got You. You
really got me.
Really got me. I could be wrong, but I think your point is well taken. That it's very rare to come out the canon like that. I mean, I remember we were in LA at the time, and we had like KLOS and KMET, all those big radio stations. It's a very large market for radio, and I remember. I think it was Jamie's Crying or one of those good songs off that album. It came on the radio, and we're little punkers, and we knew something had changed, like something was different.
Yeah.
And then when and that early stuff, you really didn't. Until you got to stuff like the Eruption, he wasn't really doing that in the songs, all that crazy guitar shit that he can do. And when we got to see him, because they played everywhere early on, these guys would,
and we were too young to see Zeppelin.
Yeah, that's right.
My older brother saw Zeppelin in '77.
Yeah.
So when VH came along, we had our thing.
Yeah.
That was ours. We owned it.
Full on.
I mean, me and my buddies went to the LA Sports Arena when the second album was released, when they first headlined.
Yeah.
That was one of our first. Hop on the RTD bus. Who cares how we're getting home? We're going to see Van Halen.
That's right.
Matter of fact, our seats were behind front of house. And they were obstructed view. And the guy shows up, and he's relocating us down to house left. And I'm like, 12 years old. I'm like 13 years old. I wanted to watch the front of house engineer, who was Townsend Westfall, I think Townsend was the engineer at the time.
Yeah, no shit.
Who I actually got to meet when I was doing VH in 91.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Very cool. Yeah, that's a pioneer you're talking about right there.
Yeah.
That's the real old school. And so 91 to 93 you were out with him, but I know you came back with him in 2004 too. What was that incarnation?
That
the
was
Van
when
Hagar?
Sam joined back.
Yeah.
Briefly.
Yeah.
And I had been with Sammy since, I don't know, 99, 2000. I'd done about 4 or 5 years with Sam.
Yeah.
Did a Shed co-headliner with Sam and Dave.
Yeah.
Rob Kern was now production managing for Van Halen.
Yeah.
And
Right till the end, right?
pretty much, yeah.
Yeah.
And I think the conversation was, Ed and Al were talking about either me or Yakubowski. Let's go back and get one of the guys that we're comfortable with. And Jim, I don't know why he didn't take it. So I jumped back on it, yeah. It was a whole different scene. 91 was, to me, the pinnacle of Van Halen with Sammy.
Yeah.
And I know there's the David Lee Roth camp of fans and the Sammy fans.
I don't think
we're not getting into that.
No, don't. Because it's a sticky wicket. It's a fucking it's a weed patch.
Right.
But I always thought of it as what David did with them, particularly the first album and Say Up to Hot for Teacher.
Right.
These were that was very specific to that sound and that energy and what that was. And then when the Sammy came thing, that felt like a much more mature, realized, fully developed thing.
Yeah.
But in a different way. It didn't take from this. They were just two different things, really different.
Right.
And you could enjoy them for different reasons.
Right.
And having some experience with Sammy, we were out with Sammy for the Scorpion Sammy tour, which was an extraordinary tour. They would kind of change positions depending on where they were more popular. When we came to the city here, it was Sammy headlined. When we went to LA, Scorpions headlined.
Yeah.
And I always remember Sammy being, and we got a lot of years with him. He does the cooking show in my hometown over here. He loves to cook. Food's always great on his work. But he was always really possessive. I remember for, 2 or 3 years, our backstage passes just said, "We work for Sammy."
Right.
I always felt like I was kind of like property.
Right. Sam's another salt to the earth. I ran into Sam before the pandemic.
Sweet.
And it was like, it's like old times.
Yeah.
We
he
talked about family.
He doesn't really have any artifice. There's not anything artificial about him. He is who he is. He rolls the way he rolls. He loves his cars. He loves his food.
Yeah.
And he loves the music.
Yeah, he's another one I used to go see when I was a teenager.
Isn't that weird? You get to grow up and work for your fucking rock stars.
And, the tour where we had the Trans Am on stage, he'd climb up and run through the trusses. And
the Red Rocker was a spaz, man. Remember with Montrose?
Killer live.
It was insane.
Yeah.
All this, his history. If you think about Sammy Hagar's history, the shit he's pulled off, heavy metal, I Can't Drive 55, he's really been, his certain moments in his career are moments in rock and roll history.
Oh, yeah.
And to come up from his early days where he came out of and then to go Red Rocker and then to do the shit with Van Halen and back and now he's doing The Circle.
Right.
It's like, my God, I don't know if you've seen The Circle, but that is one powerhouse of some badass dudes.
Yeah.
Michael Anthony and Bonham up there. It's like, motherfucker.
I don't know if you ever got to go down to the Cabo
I never did.
for the birthday bash. I did about 6 of those.
His bar down there, his club down there.
I did about half a dozen of those. That was because he would tell us the first song and the last song. One night he came out, he goes, "I'm doing all the movie hits tonight.
Right on.
I'm breaking all that, heavy metal and and Fast Times and all that stuff." And
his catalog is extraordinary.
Sam's theory was, if you're not having fun on my tour, go home.
Yeah, pretty much.
It was you can't wear all black because you'll stand out. You got to be wearing colorful shit so you blend in.
He had me wear, back in the day, I had this Local 45s, which is a biker gang, but it's bright red fucking
perfect
pullover hoodie.
Right.
And that was my kind of backstage wear, He liked it. He made to a point to say, "I like that a lot." Yeah. And it was like, cool. When it ended on, then I got my uniform. And I just kind of threw it off to the laundry girl every so often. And, it was always found that to be a little weird because, I'm professionally trained to hide. And so for him to have that kind of different point of view on it, I always thought was interesting. Yeah. A lot of fun. You mentioned, we were talking and you mentioned that, and I think we share this in common. I know we share this in common. The 90s to 2000 were a blur. Dude, I can't remember 30 to 40 for shit. I don't know where that went. I don't know what happened. Yeah. But I know I did a lot of stuff. I was very, very busy during that time, but I was also messing around with the periodic table. What's your excuse?
First, I'm going to say I've heard guys older than us say that the '60s was a blur, and now we're saying that the '90s were a blur. So
it was our '60s,
right? Well, it's not a blur. It's just that doing Toto in '90, '91, and being with VH '91 and '93 was iconic, and so that's like this time I remember. And then jumping back in with Hagar in 2000. I mean, in the middle, I went out and flew PA for Springsteen for about 6 months. I mixed the Beach Boys for a couple years, the Mike Love version of the Beach Boys.
Has everybody done the Beach Boys in our industry? If you've been here more than 20 years, you've probably worked for the Beach Boys,
and then
right?
every audio company's got the band you have to crack your teeth on, you know?
Yeah.
Like, if you're new, you got to go do this band or something.
I did big fucking shows for them. We did one at Laguna Seca. It was like 350,000 people.
Oh, yeah.
It was crazy.
We were doing like 300 days a year with them.
I mean, I've never seen a band that just puts it down, has more different versions of that band. I mean, just so many incarnations, and then they come out and they do run, and give me a good vibe. It's a trip.
Yeah, we used to bring rigs in for Jeff Peters when he was mixing, when Carl was alive, and it was, and it was the afternoon show because they do 2 shows in a day in 2 cities.
That's right.
And they had the Leapfrog rigs and the AB crews and all that.
Yeah.
And it was one of those
quite a machine.
Camps,
quite a machine,
and still going.
Yeah, I think to this day,
still working.
Yeah, it's extraordinary. It's extraordinary. I think it's the Mike Love version now, right?
And you get to experience every friggin' county fair in the entire country.
That's right.
Well, Brian's still out with his own version of it, right?
I never
Brian
watched
Wilson.
Yeah.
He's, I believe so. I know he certainly he continues to have output and new material, and he fancies himself kind of a badass on the piano. He got that weird thing with Dr. Eugene Landy, if you remember, from the 80s to about the mid-90s. He had a live-in psychologist who kind of took advantage of him and got him up on some serious medicines, which affected his speech, affected his the way his face hangs. That's why his lips are kind of sideways. And he survived that just barely. And Eugene Landy ended up going to jail, losing his medical license.
Oh, he did?
Yeah. He was like charging him $30,000 a month to destroy this genius, this legend. Yeah. Literally one of the probably most accomplished. I think most people, most critics, most music lovers would agree. Pet Sounds is right there with the songs in the Book of Life. I mean, these are fucking monumental. These albums changed the way we hear music, the way we record music.
Yeah. In the early part of the movie Almost Famous, when she hands her kid brother the record collection, and he opens it up, and that's the first album there.
Oh,
That Sounds.
Such a fucking, what a great
album.
album.
It was, my old man had, his record collection was Pet Sounds, Endless Summer, Bookends.
Timeless shit. It's just timeless shit. Plus, most of that was recorded with the Wrecking Crew. So this is some of the best players in music.
Right. Great documentary to see too.
That's an extraordinary film, right? My favorite bass player is Carol Kay. I just love her. I don't care what she does. She just is a god. And Tony, what the hell? The guitarist in that band, the heavyset Italian guy, could do crazy shit. Like it was. It's extraordinary. Well, good on Beach Boys that they keep it going on, and that we all.
I did a couple.
I think we all, like you said. I remember that part of them too in the '90s, where it was like it was a fair thing. They were doing kind of a mortgage thing. Just getting the bills paid. And
the fun part of the '90s was doing Oingo Boingo.
Those guys rule.
Yeah.
Let's just be honest now.
Dude.
I remember when they came up in the late '80s, and we did this show with them at the Santa Cruz Civic. And they brought in fucking lifeguard towers, and we covered the stand in the stage in 3 inches of sand.
Right on.
That's awesome.
I fucking swear to God, dude. They were like chicks in bikinis singing, and like it was crazy, dude. It was such a dirty show, but it was fun. Oh my God.
If you were hip to Boingo and you were into it, the Halloween shows were just another level.
Oh, Danny Elfman is a fucking genius. I don't care. I know we throw that around a little loosely, but there actually are geniuses in the game, and Brian Wilson's certainly one of them. And I would say Danny Elfman.
Now, Danny, so back, obviously we were doing that on, I'm going to say either Gamble EX or an HC40 and a 24. Yeah. And a ton of Stridians, as many as we could get in the room.
Yeah.
But I want to do that band today with the modern technology line arrays,
can you imagine?
And an S6L, and to have that many inputs available and to get it, because he always wanted it more in your face.
And pretty. Oh that'd be sweet, dude.
The horn section was
I'm a sucker for horns. I don't care. You're gonna bring some horns.
But when his horn section stepped up,
oh man,
because I was with him So back to Raz. Raz did part of the stuff when Danny got rid of the horn section. And then I came in. I wasn't a big fan of that stuff. And then we did Irvine Meadows, and he brought the horn section back in, but the crowd didn't know it. So he came out and did like 3 or 4 songs, and then the stage went dead, and it was dead air for about 2 minutes. And up on the top riser from the back, the 4 guys showed up and just hit the opening at Dead Man's Party.
Oh, I bet
and it was
people
off.
lost
it was
their mind,
off
right?
from there.
Yeah.
And it was always a 3-hour show, 3.5-hour show.
Dude, I tell you
Running a
stuff
marathon.
about when the horn. It's like when the horns, what it must have been like in the Gladiator ring when the fucking horns went off to announce the first match. Right. Oh man, the whole place was. Right. Yeah, just like so cool. Tower of Power would do that. Their horn section, one of the probably the best horn sections in music.
Yeah.
Oh my God, when those guys would get together, it was crazy. That Blue Lou and these fucking badasses up there just killing it. It was like
Jerry Manuel was with Tower of Power for years.
Yeah. We, around here you can't throw a rock without stepping to Tower of Power. It's just kind of a thing. We did their 50th anniversary thing not too long ago. It was an absolute treat. We had a couple weeks of rehearsal with them over at Mindseed Studios, and we dropped them in for a 2-show run over at the Fox. And it was like pretty much everybody been there for 50 years that had done the Tower of Power thing. It was extraordinary. Just like, damn.
You guys had a little better of a music scene up here than in LA. We got all the national acts, but you guys always had, Y&T's popping in for 3 nights.
Yeah, Santana's going to do this. Metallica's going to do that.
10 times this
Journey's
year.
coming around to kick the dirt.
Then they go do a couple in LA.
Yeah. Well, I think
and all those cool reunion gigs, and all the stuff that was happening up here, we've
been very blessed, I think, both ways. But you guys got some.
We had Hollywood.
Hard ass.
We had Hollywood.
There.
My kid brother and I went and saw GNR probably a dozen times before Appetite came out.
Before they were GNR.
So we did that.
Before they were, as we know.
I didn't do Motley in the club scene, and I wasn't a Hollywood guy.
But that first album, you got to admit, I'm not a big Motley guy, but that first album, I remember seeing them on that first album.
Too Fast for Love.
That is such a sick album.
Right.
So I thought they looked like idiots, like their outfits, but you close your eyes and let yourself be enveloped in that music.
Yeah.
God damn, what a fun album.
Oh, yeah.
So good. Yeah. So, LA for their own right I loved it for when I came up because of the punk rock thing. Mm-hmm. So it was a completely standalone thing. It hadn't even migrated to the rest of the states, really. It was kind of coming out of LA. And they really had it on lock. But it was this weird, so you go down like the Sunset Strip, the Rainbow or to the Roxy or the Whiskey or whatever. And fucking, you'd like on one side of the street be all these like hair spray spandex dudes, and then all of us punkers.
It was all hair.
It was always like this close to a full-on rock and roll punk rock riot. Like it was a thing. That was a real thing. And I always remember because it was like Warren, all these bands, fucking
so many of them,
Rat and everybody, and they, they could do what they could do. But I remember when we kind of stepped up, and I think Appetite had been recorded, but it wasn't out yet, and everybody knew. The word on the street was, look out for these guys in Guns N' Roses. They're doing something different. Right. And I had known Durf from a punk rock thing he was in before that. And so it was a strange thing. We go and see him, and they're dressed like the Cinderella dudes. They're dressed like they got that thing. They got that Motley thing going on, but musically, they were so fucking different. There was so much more there. It was so beefy. And, you knew it was like, oh, look out for this. This is going to be some shit.
Right.
And then Bigger Than Hell came out a couple months later, and it was like everybody in the world was like, ah. That was a lot of fun. And we don't get a lot of that so much anymore, do we? These big, giant explosions like the Van Halen thing, like this big, like, hey, take this world, and everybody's like bowled over, It's like extraordinary. It kind of crosses over through genres, and as everybody can just like, that's fucking cool, whatever that is. You got to tell me about, now, I had some experience with Aerosmith myself. I had one of the cooler jobs with them. It was one of the more fun jobs in my career was as procurement for them. We won't get into the details of that.
Right.
But for Aerosmith to do that job, a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun. But man, during that time, and it was very similar to the time when you were in it, these guys did not talk to each other. They had a very tough relationship. They didn't go on the bus together. They didn't have dressing rooms together. There was some real animosity between them.
Yeah, in '93 there wasn't. They got on pretty well.
Cool.
Now I had gone from finishing VH and then working in the studio on the live album, and then Van Halen was done till the next record.
Right.
So I got offered Aerosmith. Yeah. And being 27, you got to take the next thing.
Yeah.
I mean, I was watching Scoville climbing, you know, and Maddox and these guys, and I thought, okay.
Yeah, they're out doing Rush.
So to sit there and have VH and Aerosmith, I mean, I'm set.
That's
right?
pretty good, yeah.
Yeah. Now,
You would think.
you would think, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Aerosmith was, you know, it was out of my element because it was with a new company. You know, DB Sound was doing it. Bruce Knight was crew chief, and Bruce and I had gone back a while, so he had my back.
Yeah.
But it was in the advent of in-ears, and so the band was going to go all in-ears, but they hadn't done impressions and they hadn't anything made.
For the first time.
For the first time.
Okay.
And so we showed up at band rehearsals, and they had no wedges, because we're going to use them.
Yeah.
And they hadn't done impressions, so I had to basically mix through the side fills for rehearsals and, you know, waste time doing front of house.
Yeah.
But Tyler, you know, had the glasses on and the hair pinned up and a nice jacket and was very proper. And then one day he just put his hand on the desk, pulled the hair out, threw the glasses, and yak right in my face, right here.
Yeah.
And I literally was like, holy shit, you're Steven Tyler.
Yeah, that's right.
You get those moments of like,
oh, damn.
it's fucking you.
Yeah.
You know, and then you got to get over it real quick.
That's the fucking Sweet Emotion guy right there.
Yeah.
What the fuck?
Yeah. I mean, the guys were great.
Yeah, extremely talented guy.
Yeah.
Joe Perry always found to be extremely personable and a great guitarist.
I mean, between you and me, I got a few shows under my belt. I think I got about 12 under my belt before they cut me loose. That's all right.
Okay, so that's like working for Prince. You know, with Aerosmith, most of us know there's a chance you're gonna get the axe for some bullshit,
Right?
And it doesn't necessarily mean anything against you. It's hard to not take it that way, right? Because you feel that shit. I know I certainly did multiple times when I've had these issues. But Aerosmith was an extraordinary band. I think the time you were with them, they were kind of coming back up. They had dealt with some of their addiction issues, and I think,
they had cleaned up, and they had, you know, they were riding the success of Permanent Vacation, Pump, and Permanent Vacation. So this was the Get a Grip tour.
Yeah.
And so they were on top of the world.
They were kind of murdering it at that point. Jamie's
they were crushing it.
Loving the elevator shit and all that.
Crushing
right?
Yeah. They were it. And so, but they'd cleaned up. You know, it was a sober thing.
Yeah. I always thought of them as, regardless of their incarnation, especially in the second half of their career, especially after Pump and that, when they kind of came back to the public awareness, like they took it more like it's a business. You know, they were very focused on that. They're very mindful of their image to the audience, and of course, kind of precious about some of the work they had created. And to me, it always seemed like a completely different. I mean, it's the same lineup, but musically, completely different thing. You know, from Rocks and fucking Toys in the Attic. You know, to me, I think Aerosmith. I think
that was
and then the Love in the Elevator stuff and all that. It was very different, and it didn't feel like, you know, in real time. It didn't feel like I was working for the Aerosmith I knew. Yeah,
I mean, you get a little jazzed when you see the set list getting into, you know, Mama Kin. And,
exactly.
You know, and back in the saddle, you're like, okay.
That's right. Because that's when I think Aerosmith. I think back in the saddle. I mean, I think most of us do, older guys.
Right. Less old fucks. Yeah.
But it had to be a great experience for you, even though, you know, it kind of ended a little quickly. Now, I have no choice to ask you about this. So, you know, a lot of us, historically, and I don't know what the kids are using nowadays, but coming up, it was not uncommon to ring out your system with some Toto or some I think Steely Dan is even more common. Yeah. But you were out on many occasions mixing out front for, is it out front or you're doing mine?
Out front.
For Toto. I mean, this is fucking Toto, dude.
This is Toto.
I mean, I was never like a real-time huge fan, but I always understood that band knows how to fucking mix an album. That band is extraordinary players just for what they could do with sound, what they could do in the manipulation of the studio, and then bring it out and redo it live.
Yes.
That must have been, that must have been a master class in badassery.
Yeah.
What was it like being with Toto? I have no choice but that.
Life-changing.
Right?
Life-changing.
Fucking Toto, man.
I would tech for Dirk, and we would do rehearsals.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And the amount of gear was insane. We had a 40-channel Gamble console just mixing keyboards.
The director just laughed at that because he can't even get his head around what you just said.
That's a whole other interview.
I mean, I know when Pink Floyd would do that with just the drums, like one board for the drums, you know. But
it was so specific because we were touring Europe and Japan. We weren't touring America. We were doing 2 sold-out nights at the Ahoy in Amsterdam. You know, 2 nights at the Globe. We were selling 35,000, 40,000 tickets.
Wow.
We competed with Janet Jackson in Rhythm Nation tour 2 days later.
That's hard to compete with. That was huge.
So I would do rehearsals and stuff, and Dirk was, and I would get a vibe. Well, 90 rolled around, and Dirk was busy doing Bruce Hornsby, and couldn't do it, and was just bummed. And Jeff Porcaro gave me the shot. Jeff Porcaro looked at Luke and said, "Give the kid a shot."
Wow.
24 years old, and Luke was tough.
A big deal.
It was, but I had the mix in my head already.
Yeah.
I already knew the finished product in my head.
You were out front for Toto at 24?
I was out front for Toto in 24.
That's insane, dude.
I had an EX. We were in the shop for about a week and a half.
Yeah.
And I mixed rehearsals in the shop while they rehearsed.
Yeah.
And got it close. And we shipped everything over, the whole rig. Transformer, everything. We brought everything but racks and stacks to Europe.
Yeah.
And we rehearsed a few days.
It's all control services.
And off we went. And they taught me, the first 2 or 3 buildings were rough, big empty rooms. And those guys taught me more about sound in 2 sound checks than anyone's ever taught me.
Is this in Europe or is this in Japan?
This is in Europe. This is the Globe in Stockholm, the Festhalen in Frankfurt, big rooms.
Oh, fuck, notorious.
And the crowd was insane.
The fans are very appreciative.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I was with those guys on and off for 20 years. I mean, those guys came to my wedding. It was their family.
That's very sweet.
It was, we talk about not being friends with the artist, trying to keep the boundaries with an artist, but with Toto, it was you're all in. Your family, you're hanging at the bar, you're doing all that stuff, you're traveling together, you're going through all of it together.
Yeah.
And that's just the way it was.
That's kind of cool.
And to have Jeff, to have a drummer and bass player who are brothers, and legendary Jeff Porcaro, I thought drum sounds were easy to come by because you just brought it up, tuned the kick a little, and it just came together. All of it was just. But then Dirk had taught me just an insane amount about. It was like, okay, you got everything dialed in, and you can hear everything. Nothing's feeding back. Everything's clean. Great. Right. Now you know the cues of the show. Great. Now you got to take it to the next level, and you got to mold that thing,
put the flavor
into a Van Gogh. You know what I mean? Yeah. Into how do you, how do you pull something out of the piano where it's going to fit right in the mix, where on its own you wouldn't. It's where you learn if you're going to tune the bass, if you're going to tune the kick drum, listen to the bass guitar while you're doing it.
Good idea.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Have everything fit.
Yeah.
And it was pressure. Sound checks, you had to be show ready for sound check.
I bet.
If something went wrong, you heard about it after the show. And they just made you step up your game.
Perfect. Especially for a band like that. I can't imagine they would accept anything less.
Oh, no. And the fans didn't either. And the fans knew it.
Well, that's why I asked about the Japan thing, because, that's a very critical listener. That audience is, especially for something like a Joe Jackson or a Toto.
Oh, God, yeah.
They ain't there to fucking clap and be all fanish. No, they're studying that shit. They know exactly what it's supposed to be. Yeah. And you start changing up on them, they're going to not respond well.
And they come to every tour, and they show up Europe and Japan.
Yeah.
In Europe, it'd be festival seating, and the people would show up at doors, and they'd run to the stage, and they'd look at what Luke's using this year, and look at, when Jeff passed, Simon Phillips took over playing drums, which is who I was with last night at Yoshi's.
Oh, no shit.
With his band.
Sweet.
And they would look at all the gear and what mics you're using. Then they'd come to front of house, and they'd look at what the rig is. First time I went over there with the Digi-Design, the venue, the big one, the original console.
Yeah, we were talking about this.
There were more fans looking at the console than the band gear because they'd never seen anything like it.
Yeah. Las Vegas.
And serious gearheads.
Yeah.
Sausage Fest, of course.
Of course.
But it was. Yeah, Toto was. It was the best mixing I'll ever do. And the most insane stories that will ever come out of anything.
I think with that experience and being so close to Toto is why you are going to stick with Legend? You feel you get the same kind of closeness?
No, it's totally different.
Yeah.
It's totally different, but it's without all the tension and stress and pressure. You know what I mean? I think my best mixing is behind me because I don't think I'll ever get that kind of input coming at me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Plus, I'm doing monitors. I'm not out front anymore.
Yeah, your source material is very different with Toto.
But it's like we were talking about at lunch. It's like the thing about live is get off on it while the show's going because when it's over, it's over. time to load out.
That's right.
You're not going to hear it on the board tape.
Nope.
You're not going to hear it anywhere. You know,
right.
enjoy it in the moment. And when it's done, pack the gear up. Let's get the fuck out of here. Put the
Next.
shit in the truck and move on.
You're not wrong.
Which is what I learned on VH, you know.
All right. So one of the, you know, when I talk to folks, I got Morgan coming in, you know, he's Steely Dan. And
I love being opening act for Dave Morgan. He's fucking bitching.
pretty good company, right?
Right.
Yeah.
I'll take it.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, you're kind of on fire. Like the lineup you're in is John just did that side. We got Paul David and
Right.
Josh Hager coming in later over here, and we got Morgan over here. I've been on a little bit of a run lately. I get some.
You're on fire.
Some some cool ass people.
I'm the kid.
I got to ask you.
Shoot.
So if I had Morgan here, I have no choice. When I do, I'm going to say, well, okay, how did you tune your PA with Steely Dan? Who did you use? Steely Dan?
That's a good question.
No, it's a fair question. You know, so who did you ring out your system with Toto?
Geez, that was a long time ago.
But you get the question? Because I think
yeah,
when I think of ringing out
right.
systems, I think of those two guys
Right.
that lead the way. Maybe a KD Lang or a Sade.
No. I was using Fagan's.
Joe
I was
Jackson.
using Fagan's music. Off Night
See,
Flight.
that makes perfect sense.
Right, I was using stuff off Night Flight.
Basically Steely Dan like,
Yeah.
you know.
And I usually tuned with my voice. Dirk taught me how to tune a PA first with my voice,
Sweet.
and then mic. But I'll show you how old I am. All the shows were recorded on cassette tape.
Wow, dude, that is.
Those were
pretty
these little things that were about this big, and when the tape got caught, you put a pencil in the middle
We
and
just had a pencil
spun
right
it.
here, and you just fix it right up, no
Yeah.
problem. Just
And if
dial
you're
it right
really
back
hip,
in.
you had two, and you could record on two tapes at once.
That was a highly proficient fucker that could do the
Just
two.
dated yourself.
I think we had dad tapes
Not the
around the
gray hair
second
did
tour.
that. We already dated, but yes,
funny.
exactly.
Yes.
What was it like when you were out with John Legend recently and you took out that Pro Tools rig from Diablo Digital? Do you like the ease of the kind of plug and play and go, and you capture everything pretty damn perfectly?
I don't use it a lot.
Yeah.
I used it a couple times, which I found really helpful. At least virtual sound check, I guess we're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
I found really helpful. Brian Setzer is a good example.
He's a badass.
And Raz talked about it too. Setzer was 13 horn players on wireless mics.
Yeah.
So to be able to track that and bring it back and just, because they never sound checked.
Yeah.
And all the gains were different, and all the wireless, Shure mics we had,
You're talking about the Brian Setzer Orchestra.
Right.
Yeah.
Brian
yeah.
Setzer Orchestra.
Yeah.
The Christmas stuff I did. And
Yeah.
so that was helpful. I've never dove into the virtual sound check world. Yeah.
Wasn't your thing?
Not really my thing. And I would never do it on monitors.
Well, that makes a lot more sense.
I wouldn't do it on
Yeah,
monitors.
I mean,
but
it's just a very different position, has
Right.
different requirements.
I like being a monitor guy now, I got to tell you.
Yeah, it's so different.
I like the short end of the snake.
Yeah. But it's a very different job. I think people unconsciously or maybe consciously or unknowingly say, well, there's a board on each side, more or less the same. It is not the same thing. It's a very different job.
You got to fight for the energy, and if you're going to try to get off on the show, you got to work. You got to look for it doing monitors.
Yeah.
Out front, if you're on, and it's you're going to get it.
Yeah.
Yeah. But you don't get the back. You don't get the antics. You don't get the looks and the
feedback.
And the stuff that's going on and all the fuck ups and whoa.
Yeah. No, I always thought it was. That was the job where the work was, as it related to hands-on work. That's monitor.
Well, and I
position.
had to learn. I hadn't done ears before, so that was a learning curve the first couple years. So it's been, and now with the S6L, I mean, I'm constantly learning more stuff. Whether it's am I boring you? No, whether it's
I can't help it, man. I didn't sleep your shit last night. It's a problem. Sorry, brother. You are absolutely not boring me. You are exciting and wonderful.
Teasing.
But the S6L. You were saying?
Well, Kyle was showing the girls the console earlier.
Yeah.
And I was talking to him a little bit about events, and how it's like if you could think of doing something, you can get it done.
Oh yeah.
That's always my approach is I want to do this. How can I do this instead of reaching up here, and how can I stay in here?
Yeah.
And I can use function switches.
Yeah.
And that gets more creative. And the time is better spent me doing that than tweaking all my input gains and
trying to navigate
EQs,
around that.
and losing the mix.
Yeah.
Mario Lachesty was my crew chief on Van Halen. And Mario taught me, once you've got the mix, leave it alone.
Yeah.
and tune the room. Focus on tuning the room, check your stuff at sound check, hear what the room's doing, and then just mix the show.
Yeah.
And so on Mons,
Good advice.
I don't want to mess with stuff. And I'm a tweaker. So give me something to play with,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
And that console, I love that desk. I think it's just a gas.
Yeah, I think it's a lot of fun. I got to ask you,
Okay.
what's the deal with the peanut butter and jelly, baby? Is it just a yummy, quick treat? And I've been hearing I can't
home.
leave my cheese whiz cans around you because they'll turn up missing.
It's home.
That's the word.
It's
Like,
not
John's gonna
only
eat your cheese whiz. That's what they tell me.
not only is peanut butter and jelly my staple, but
Yeah.
it's Skippy peanut butter,
Skippy rules.
Wonder Bread,
Yeah.
Smucker's strawberry, and it's
Getting
enough
it.
peanut butter to choke a 13-year-old. And when the pandemic started, that was the crisis. Everybody went through the toilet paper thing.
Yeah.
I literally was hitting stores and I couldn't find Skippy. Friends and family were sending me peanut butter that I couldn't. And I finally, my wife found it. I threw a picture on Facebook. I got 10 jars to get me through the pandemic.
That's
which
perfect.
did.
So you were in tall cotton after that.
It'll be my last supper.
Sounds like a good wife. And you got
The best.
Yeah,
The one and only.
There's some beauty in the
one and
simplicity, and I don't know what the combination is with Wonder Bread, Skippy, and some good Smuckers, but that's a hell of a
I don't know how
sandwich
you
right
knew
there.
about the peanut butter and jelly.
There's word on the
This
street.
cat.
People
People talk.
bust his chops about
That was like
That's what I want to be known for, though.
your bus list was the most simplistic thing. Like you got canned cheese and some Wonder Bread and
And when you're the old guy on the bus and they run out of Skippy, and because of COVID, you're not allowed on the other crew bus,
Yeah.
hell will rain down. It got ugly. Pull the bus over.
I want off. I want
Now.
a Stippy. Was this 2018 thing you went out with last for? So was that thing where she went away, it seemed like, for a minute?
She went away for a long time, yeah.
Yeah. And it was kind of her reappearance. Was that her reemergence?
Yeah.
Because that kind of was a very well
Yeah.
promoted, kind of a big deal.
I did a few things with Don Musquiz is her production manager, and we go way back to some country stuff in the 80s. And I did a couple acoustic things. She was doing privates with a couple, her guitar players were acoustic. And then we did, I don't know, a few Vegas shows. And I had heard that she's tough because she's off the mic a lot, and she's tough.
She doesn't have much mic discipline.
No.
Yeah.
But the band is a killer.
Well, I mean, think about it. Taylor Hawkins came from her band. I mean, she don't play with some dodges. You know what I mean?
And then it's the same kind of thing. Like you're like, oh, she wrote this song too. Jesus, it's just hit after hit. So we did a few Vegas shows that I had a gas, and I did a couple runs, probably, but not a lot of shows, a couple dozen, enough to make the list.
All right, right, sure.
And it's funny because when I met her, she said, anything I can do for you to make your life easier, just let me know. And I was like, you're the first singer who's ever said that to me.
Yeah, it's a very sweet
That's
notion.
fantastic.
Yeah.
But that was about all the contact I had with her, really. I mean,
You didn't say anything about, could you hold the mic closer to your face and keep it there?
No, I thought her mic technique was great. I'll geek out a bit, but
Well, she kind of plunges around the stage quite a bit. She doesn't stay in one spot.
No.
She's lunging
went
out
off,
there and
and
over
then the
this and going backwards and then up there.
yeah. And then the second time I did her, a few months, about maybe a year later, she was 7 months pregnant.
No
And
shit.
still crushed it. The key to her, though, if we get into gear, is a center cluster. If you got a center cluster for her voice, you're fine. But I can see how it's tough. But she just killed it all summer with her and Garbage were out all summer.
Yeah, it's not surprising.
And I heard I saw the pictures they were posted every night. They were just
I was
selling
kind of tripped on Shirley Manson and Butch Vig, because Butch is, his other
Yeah.
job, which
Right.
we could say is, one of the better producers in the game,
Yeah.
one of the more distinctive producers.
Oh, yeah.
I always thought he was an interesting cat, but drum-wise, it was kind of just blended away, It's really the Shirley Manson project, if you think about it, but very talented. I can imagine that being a great tour between Morissette and Shirley Manson and the kids. One of my favorite artists. I remember the first time I saw this artist, and then I was a fan. I wasn't really a fan. I was just at a show. I wasn't working, and Pat Benatar comes out and built like, she's that tall, and she's like, wow, right? I mean, just a powerhouse. But I remember mostly tripping on her husband.
Yeah.
He's jumping between positions. He's taking over the drums. He's taking over the keys. He's freaking losing his mind on the guitar.
Yeah.
What a team, man. Wow. I mean, Pat Benatar to me is in so many ways. Wasn't somebody I followed very closely, but when I would get into her shit and I'd give her a minute, there was no way to deny that talent. I mean, just such a pure talent.
Yeah.
I wasn't mixing for Pat Benatar. I imagine vocally, you really had to keep on top of her because she could really belt.
And I was a big Patty fan growing up.
Yeah.
This was, and nobody probably knows about it. She did an album called True Love, which was a blues album. And it was an upright bass. It was the rhythm. These guys from Rochester, New York, big band, drummer and horn section, and Neil, and an organ player, his Leslie player. So it was a blues show, and it was very kind of subtle with a little bit of Zydeco vibe.
Oh, shit.
And she said, I'm not playing any of my rock and roll stuff. And we were doing little theaters, dinner theaters, some big clubs, stuff like that. And that's what the tour was. The promoter was promoting it with Heartbreaker and, Hit Me With Your Best Shot and all that.
Switch, dude.
So 3 songs in, people were booing and asking for their money back because they didn't know what it was.
That's too bad.
And so the tour actually went short, but one night at Jones Beach, they came out for the encore and Neil just wouldn't give up. And he's playing the riffs.
He's kind of a monster.
And she had like this really cute little wig and flowery dress and hat.
Yeah.
And she threw the hat off and grabbed the mic and did a half hour
of
all the hits.
That's
so
really
that was
good.
my extent of getting the hard
good.
stuff.
Yeah.
But she was really sweet. And it's funny because that tour got cut short. We were in Baltimore, and the 2 days before was when Eddie called me and said, stay put, my manager's going to call you, work out a deal to come mix Van Halen.
Yeah.
And so it actually worked out
Really cool.
perfectly.
Yeah. It's rare that happens.
So, yeah.
Really sweet.
Yeah.
That's a shame. I can't even imagine people walking away from Pat Benatar.
Patty-
She's just such a freaking monster.
Yeah,
But
and it was beautiful music.
But it sounds
the
like it was
promoter
just a
didn't promote
departure,
it.
and they handled it wrong. Maybe not the band so much, but the promoters and
Yeah,
shit. And that's so easy to get wrong.
Yeah.
What an extraordinary talent. Just extraordinary. I had because they're just, you kind of can't not have them in there, working with Bruce Springsteen, Joe Walsh, Ringo Starr, but we're kind of close on time. There's had to be a lot of fun experiences, a lot of good times with those bands,
Oh, yeah.
Bruce is a badass in his own right. He just sold his whole, you see that? He just sold all of his whole catalog for like $500 million.
For only $500 million.
Poor son of a bitch. I hope he'll be okay.
Right.
Don't want him running out of peanut butter.
Right.
We'll have to send something out to him if it gets like that.
Seriously.
'Cause
Bruce was cool. I'll tell you a quick
Bruce
story.
is very
I came in
down-to-earth,
midway. I was just hanging.
blue-collar
I was
guy.
hanging house right PA, and JK John Kearns was mixing out front. I'll keep this short. But after the first sound check at Staples, they've been out for 6 months. He's got 50, 60 people out there.
Yeah.
He walks right up to me, and he goes, "How's it sounding up top, John?" He'll hat
Very
on.
sweet.
He's
Very
like, "I'm
cool.
Bruce. If you need anything, da 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 da."
Yeah.
And I was like, "Holy shit! He knows who I am, who everybody is, what they're doing."
Sure.
He was more concerned about the nosebleed seats than
As
the
he
front.
should have been.
He cared about that's what I did. I walked the arena for JK.
Yeah.
And that was fun.
Yeah, no, he's a consummate professional, true legend in this game.
Oh, yeah.
Even before he had popular fame, he was writing songs, big-ass songs for other artists, Patti Smith, all these other artists that, turned his shit into, serious gold. And you can't, I love how all the politicians always get his stuff wrong. They'll start playing like, they're usually the Republican set. They'll use Born in the USA, and apparently they haven't listened to the song. Because if they listened to the song, they would not be using it. They would understand that that's a pretty hard critique on being an American and some of the stuff that we don't do so well. And I love how he gets really upset and gets in there and is like, "Stop! I am not representing you. You cannot use my music. I'm not down with your belief system."
He doesn't play that.
He will. You don't want to run up against Bruce Springsteen and be on the wrong side of it. He will take you to task, and I respect the shit out of him for that. Yeah. I got to ask you, a guy that's done as much as you have, accomplished as much as you have. You know it's transitioning for guys like us, and you saw it today in our class.
Yeah.
These young, nubile, bright people are going to come in and they're going to start getting in some positions as hopefully as the older dudes we start molding them and fitting them into.
Right.
But I don't think I think a lot of them don't see there's not a straight line to getting to where
Right.
a person like you, a person who's accomplished and worked with some of the biggest bands in the world.
Right.
Do you have any advice you could give to the youngsters out there how to come up in this business in a successful, sustainable way? You know what I mean by that? Because, a lot of us almost killed ourselves in this game, you know? And I don't see that as much as a problem, but to sustain it and to get, this isn't something where you're usually going to be successful overnight. So longevity is the key.
Yeah.
What's your secrets?
There's always more to learn. You know what I mean? I was telling one of the guys, stay teachable. You know, I fell into that trap, as I know a lot of guys did. The ego gets in the way.
Yeah, it's real.
And so, and the intimidation of older guys.
Look at this guy right here.
You get worried about asking questions. Ask questions. Stay humble. Keep learning. And I mean, look. To be 25 and mixed in the biggest rock band in the world, like anybody can do this. Now, not anybody can mix. I'm not going to say that, but anything can happen in this industry, in this life.
That's very true.
We could do 3 hours of stories.
Oh man.
You know,
No problem.
I met Obama 3 times.
Yeah.
That doesn't happen to a guy like me from where I come from.
Yeah, sure.
And enjoy every fucking moment of it.
Yeah.
I mean, you're going to go places, you're going to meet people, you know, and be cool with everybody you're working with.
Yeah.
You know, because you're going to see them down the road.
Yeah.
You know,
right.
you don't want to walk into a gig and like, oh shit, he's here.
Yeah.
Uh-oh.
We're gonna walk on glass.
But I think as far as audio goes, so just ask questions and be willing to keep learning. And if you don't get something, go back a step and learn it, and learn all the basics. You know, work in the shop, pack trucks. I don't know if they do that anymore these days, but you know.
If you work here, you do.
There you go. You know what I mean? Like grab a soldering iron and fix that XLR cable.
Well, I need to get you through that front part before I get you to the second part.
Yeah.
I can't put you out in front of a big crowd of a national active. I'm not confident you know how to fucking repair a ram latch or deal with a faulty NL4 or whatever.
Right.
I mean, I need you to know that.
And the other thing is, like we talked about, was the young kids probably know more than I'll ever know when it comes to computers and all that kind of, all that shit.
Yeah.
But think about the audience. Think you've got people who haven't been to a live show maybe in 2.5 years. That, tickets are hella expensive.
Oh, man, yeah.
And to get them off. Yeah. Give them 2 hours where they can let go of their problems and just escape and get them off.
Yeah.
They've all got great sound and stereos at home.
Yeah, they know.
Whip it out. Put up the big rig and show them what them what it can really be about, and let them escape. Do it for them. Don't you know what I mean?
I couldn't agree with you more.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's great advice. What's next for you, buddy? What do you got coming on up next? Aren't you guys doing?
We're going to Vegas.
Yeah. Right.
We're doing the 3-week
kind of a
Vegas residency.
Right?
Yeah. I was just thinking about that. Like, when you unpack your gear and tip the console, you got to remember where you put the lid, because you're not going to see it for a few weeks.
Yeah.
We're gonna do 3 runs in Vegas: April, May, and then again in August and October.
Oh, that should be a lot of fun.
Hopefully, we'll do the European Festival run, which I'm praying for.
Yeah, that'd definitely be a lot of fun.
Montreux and Locarno and all and Pori and all the jazz
good
fests.
Fun ones. Sure.
That's this year. JL's dropping a new album, which is going to be sick. Probably June or July. So I think 2023 is going to be full on.
That'd be great.
And then privates. We do a ton of privates, me and him, when he does solo piano.
Sure.
But,
By dates, one-offs type shit.
Yeah, pop over to wherever in the world. Yeah. The guy has no fear of going anywhere in the world.
No, nor should he. I mean, we were talking about the Capri thing. I know Brad was out there with you on, I think he was doing Flo or Katy Perry.
He was doing Katy.
Yeah, Katy Perry. And he came in literally the next day after that. He flew back, and I was like, well, what'd you do this weekend? Oh, I was in Capri.
Right.
Legend and Katy Perry. I said, the fucking island? He said, yeah, the island of Capri. I said, okay, you're an asshole. Go that way,
That was it. That was it.
Yeah. All right. Fine. I did a barbecue at the house. Fine.
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. The next month I'm off.
Good
next month I'm chilling.
Yeah.
A lot of Zoom meetings.
Sweet.
Staying at home with the wife.
Got you.
A lot of dog time.
Very, very cool.
Got to shout out to my girl Leah.
Oh, absolutely. Thanks for letting us have him. I know you didn't want to give him up, but We really appreciate you coming
appreciate
here.
it, man.
It's been
good
an
hang.
absolute treat to have you on the show.
Me too.
I love what you've done with your career and your life. You're a legend in the game, man. People wish they were as good as what you can do, and you come at it with such a good attitude. And I really, really, truly appreciate you coming here and sharing with our audience your experiences and
thanks for having me.
your good nature and especially you coming and making it in the house like this. Extra thrilling and a treat for us. So thank you, brother.
I had to see Kyle.
Yeah,
I had to see the
I know I kept
setup
him
in
around for
real
something.
life.
Yeah. He's got a kind of a fucking hook quality to him.
Well, I appreciate it because it's been 30 years I've been wanting to be named in the same sentence as the Scovilles and Brad and Morgan and all those guys. And
I love that you don't think
they might know me if they tripped over me, but it's, you know what, and God bless those cats because it's, it's like they can do it, we can do it.
Absolutely.
Learn from them. And if the younger people can come in and do it, you're not taking our seat.
No, that ain't happening. I'll
That
tell
ain't
you
happening
that
anytime soon.
Yeah.
But, respect your elders. There you go.
That's actually good. Did you hear what he said?
Respect your
About the
elders.
old-
Didn't hear that.
You didn't hear. You didn't hear
Sorry.
that.
And then we got to realize we are the elders.
I might have to get an instant replay in this.
My wife's going to laugh her ass off at the fact that
play
I
it
just
back.
said that.
I'm just kidding. I got a lot of love for all you old fuckers.
And believe it or not, we do for you kids too, because we understand we're handing it off at some point. I think that guys like ourselves love what we do and care a lot about the industry. So I've said this before on the show. So it's incumbent upon us to do what we can to get you guys share with us the stuff that might be helpful for your career, and then turn you out, and hopefully you guys, we can kind of fade back into the woodwork and you guys can come out front. We would love that at some point. But I don't think a person like Gregory or yourself or many of us are going to just hand it over. We're going to need to see it, be able to do it. And we need to be able to go home and feel confident that it's going to get done on a very high professional level.
And it's not the money.
It's definitely not the money.
It's the, all these guys have busted their ass their whole lives to make it what it is.
That's right.
And but it's like musicians, like we talked about Ed. Eddie Van Halen always said, nobody ever took what I did to the next level.
That's true.
To
this day.
It was Hendrix, there was Page, there was Ed.
Yeah.
And I'm not dissing guitar players at all.
Yeah,
but
because you kind of did when you didn't say Stevie, but I'm going to let that, it'll be okay.
Okay.
We don't jump over Stevie Ray Vaughan, bro. I'm sorry. But Ed has a good point, and that's very true.
Take it to the next level.
Yeah.
To mix shows where where we can roll up in our wheelchairs when we're 70 and go, holy shit, how'd you do that?
Good. At least for my good ear, that's really good. It's kind of like this, right, like that.
Turn it down.
Does it have to be this loud?
And that's the other thing. Know that the audience, they only care about three things. They're only going to comment on three things. It's too loud, too much bass, I can't hear the vocal.
Yeah, more or less.
We spend our life, with every frequency of every input right here.
That's right.
They don't listen.
Well, I don't know. They know how to listen, right? So it's a tricky thing. But that's why I think the sweet spot, like with Dave Morgan, and I'm wandering down a little bit of a path, but I think when we're
into the bonus footage.
Yeah, we're into
definitely right.
All right. I got to go, but I think you know what I mean. There's approaches and techniques. It was a treat to have you. Thank you so much. I hope that we get to see each other again soon.
Absolutely.
All right, pal. Well, that was a lot of fun.
Oh, most certainly.
And he mostly told me the stuff I'm going to bust your balls about at lunch. So
thank God.
So I didn't want. I said, John,
don't beat
up on my boy during the show because I love my boy, and I'm not going to let that happen. So that's what he did because he's a good man. So we'll talk later, and there's a couple things I think you should be doing.
All right.
But that's between us, no worries.
He's so proud he didn't fight a single person.
No, there was no fighting. I heard. It was not. You didn't steal any peanut butter. That was the first thing I asked. I said, was all your peanut butter accounted for? And he said, no, I had all my peanut butter. The kid never touched it. And I said, he's a good boy.
Right.
So we appreciate that so much. Listen, we do this, every week, Thursday, 7 p.m. Sometimes we'll, do like we're doing right now. We kind of have to pivot into a different time because a person like Jon is very busy and we're very busy. And we're going to film another show in about 2 hours here with some serious badasses. We are very lucky. But we do this for you. We do it a little bit for us because we dig it and we like hanging out with our friends and talking shop. But in many ways, we like to keep your spirits up and remind you why you do this and why you're in this game. Just because it's a special thing. We're lucky to do it. And we truly love music. We appreciate you coming here. We're here every Thursday at 7 p.m. We're going to do this again next week. Next week, we got David Morgan on. Now, if you don't know who David Morgan is, let's just say, think 50 years of working with the biggest rock stars in the world, some of the most incredible. That we're talking Jackson Browne. I mean, the list is so long. Jackson Browne, Steely Dan, James Taylor. I mean, he is the king of the sweet mix.
Paul Simon.
Paul Simon, Graceland, fucking Graceland. I mean, like I cannot tell you this enough. Me and John are stoked to be on each other's company, but when we think of a guy like Dave Morgan, we're like, not worthy. I'm serious. You have to tune in next week. It's going to be one hell of a show, and I'm going to take Dave right to the mat and squeeze out all the information I can get out of him, because that is a straight-up nugget. We appreciate you guys. You got a whole week until we see you again. Until then, be kind to each other, be good to yourself, and, enjoy the world. It's one time around, baby. We'll see you again next week. Good night.